Okay, but Michael, you have another concern, haven't you, that objective sex education won't be delivered through these new guidelines. Why do you feel that?
Well, there's a conflict at the core of the department's policy on this. And it has told schools as far back as 2010 that they're obliged to provide objective sex education to all students. But it also says, because the Education Act says so, that it has to be done so having regard to the characteristic spirit of the school. Now, in practice, that means a Catholic ethos in most schools. Now, the Oireachtas Education Committee addressed that issue recently and recommended that the Education Act should be amended to prevent the Catholic ethos from interfering in the objective delivery of the sex education. And unfortunately, this report has just fudged that. Instead of addressing the issue of objective sex education, it talks about comprehensive sex education, which isn't the same thing. And it just concludes that at the moment you can't separate the ethos from the other aspects, which is of course correct. But the reason that you can't is because the Education Act needs to be amended, and it has failed to recommend that.
Siobhan, is it your experience that Catholic ethos is blocking delivery even of the programme we have right now, not to mention the programme that the Minister is committed to rolling out?
Well, the programme that we have right now fits in with the Catholic ethos. So I don't think there's a particular issue there. I mean,
but are there schools that do not deliver the RSE programme?
There are schools. Most schools deliver some aspects of the RSE programme. It depends on the teachers'
so they cherry pick
comfort with delivering all the aspects. But as the children told us, the RSE as it stands doesn't talk more than about biological aspects. There's not enough about LGBT and different orientations and sexualities. There's not a lot about contraception. In fact, there's nothing about contraception because of the Catholic ethos. But then a lot of schools were getting outside educators. There's really good programs down in Wexford and Waterford from Squishy Couch. There's the Sexual Health West program in the West. There's the Cork's Sex Education Centre, and they talk about all those things. They're experts brought in because teachers don't feel that they have the knowledge to talk about these things. But these are in Catholic schools because the teachers and the principals and the parents are very aware that they want to protect their children. They want to give them the information. By giving information does nothing more than protect them. It doesn't encourage them to have sexual intercourse or become more sexually active.
It certainly seems, Michael, from what Siobhan is saying as well, a lot of this centres around the quality of the teacher's ability to deliver the programme and their comfort and knowledge of the subject.
Well, that's one aspect of it, but as well as that, if you look at the report, it quotes school principals are saying things like, I feel I have to be brave all the time. It's on my shoulders if the patron isn't happy. Now, the patron is the Catholic bishop in most cases.
Yeah. Also
saying ethos is used as an excuse not to teach certain topics or areas. We have a pastoral Christian ethos and teach within that framework. So that's what principals are saying, and those quotes are from the NCCA report itself. So it acknowledges these problems, but it doesn't act on the consequences of these by saying, in order to change that, you have to amend the Education Act, as the Oireachtas Education Committee has already recognised.
So you think that's key, Michael? Yes, sorry. Siobhan, go ahead.
I was just saying, do you think that this government is brave enough to actually do a final division of church and state in relation to our education system? I mean, that's what you're saying. I mean, that's what it boils down to, isn't it?
Michael?
Yes, and ultimately it will have to happen. Ultimately, because if you look, say, at the most recent 3 referendums on abortion, marriage equality and blasphemy, there's more or less a 2-to-1 majority now for a kind of objective approach to these issues that recognises that personal conscience can't be bound just by the Catholic Church. There are a lot of complications with regards to the ownership of land and buildings by the Catholic Church. But that aside, I think the direction that we're going in, as the last Oireachtas Education Committee recommended on this, is in a more liberal, pluralist direction.
And clearly, Michael, as well, about what parents want. And we've had plebiscites about schools in this country, and parents, in many cases, voted to retain the system that already existed.
Well, they have done in certain specific instances where they're asked about their own school while their own child is going through that school, and it's very difficult for somebody to want to interrupt their own child's education. But when they're asked in a more general sense, would they prefer a secular education, a majority of parents do want that.